and certainly we thank the government in Beijing. But of course, we also stress that all governments need to pay their dues in full. You've seen the sort of financial pressures we've been under, and we do need full payments from all member states. Benny.
On that topic, does the government closure of the United States affect any of the U.S. payments?
No,
To the UN?
that's not an issue for us. Obviously, what affects it is whether the U.S. Government pays us, but
Yeah,
we
they
continue.
can't pay for food trucks in the U.S. So why do you think they would pay the UN?
Those are separate issues, and of course, I would like to point out that payment of dues is a treaty obligation, and all member states need to do that.
Even
Yes,
when
please.
the government is closed, shut down.
That's a domestic issue. It's not, different governments have different pressures that they face, but dues payment is part of their
When is
obligation.
the U.S. When is the U.S. government
Benny, this is not a debate
payment
we're
due?
having.
Wait. When is it due? Just a question of fact. I mean, is it usually
you
paid?
can talk to U.S. officials about how the
When
shutdown
is it
affects them.
normally paid? You know that.
What?
When is it normally paid?
It,
At the end of the fiscal year?
varies from time to time, but we do expect payments towards the end of the year. Yes, please.
So the leaders of China and the U.S. Met in South Korea yesterday, and given both countries have huge impact on global development, what is the Secretary General's view on the significance of this dialogue for international stability?
We appreciate a dialogue among all nations, and certainly for nations who have as a critical a relationship as the United States and the Republic of Korea, we very much welcome their efforts at dialogue. Linda, and then Stefano.
Thank you, Farhan. I was just wondering, perhaps I missed it, were there any new developments regarding the release of any detainees in Yemen?
I just read out earlier a note that we shared with you yesterday about the efforts by Hans Grunberg and Moin Shem, our two senior officials. But right now, the number of those arbitrarily detained remains at 59. Stefano?
Thank you, Farhan. Well, you noticed that the Security Council on Sudan just released a press statement, but it's a very, the press statement we all know is the lowest it could go. So, has the Secretary General considered sending a formal letter to the Security Council invoking the responsibility to protect, given the atrocity now unfolding in Al-Fashir? Well, I remember almost 500 people were just killed yesterday in an hospital. If not, why not?
At this stage, the Secretary General has been very clear about how difficult the situation is. In addition to Martha Poby and Tom Fletcher, the Security Council in its closed session today also heard from the Secretary General's personal envoy, Ramtane Lamamra, and all three of them have a very clear message for them. And the Security Council is engaging, and we expect further engagement as we proceed.
I'm sorry, I have to do a follow-up. One is a matter of a responsibility to protect, means there are really massacre going on while we're speaking. Timing is very important. Now, when it was the case, I remember Secretary General Guterres was just in the office. People think that he saved the life of 800,000 people in Myanmar because he sent a letter to the Security Council while in Myanmar they were slaughtering people. The Security Council came together right away, was ready to act with the resolution, and what happened is actually all the killing all of a sudden stopped, and they were able, these people, 800,000 people, to get to the border with Bangladesh. So, asking again, why the Secretary General is not sending a letter, doing a strong statement to say, to tell to the Security Council that this is the moment to act?
The Security Council is already seized of the matter. Like I said, 3 senior UN officials spoke in very clear terms to the Security Council just within the past few hours. And so we are delivering a very strong message about the killings that are going on. You'll have seen the statement that the Secretary General himself has issued about the situation in and around El Fasher. He's considering his options. If further steps are needed, he will consider those at that point.
So is he satisfied with the press statement? That's enough? The press statement of the Security Council?
What he wants is for the killings to stop. As I just told you at the start of this briefing, one of the things that Martha Pobey pointed out is that the parties have shown encouraging signs of their willingness to engage, and she urged member states who have leverage over the parties to encourage them to take this critical step. And so she's pushing on different member states and on the Security Council. Yes, please.
Thank you, Farhan. On the latest details of the fragile ceasefire in Gaza, Israel says Hamas today has handed over 2 more captives, leaving 11 bodies still to be transferred. Hamas claims it needs Israeli approval to bring in heavy equipment to retrieve those bodies from areas impacted by bombardment, while Israel accuses Hamas of delaying the full release. Does the SG make anything of these conflicting claims, and does he believe either side is buying time? Thank you.
I think from the Secretary General's standpoint, he's made it very clear that he wants the parties to do their utmost to live up to their commitments under the ceasefire agreement. We are not one of the parties who are mediating this agreement, and we leave it in the hands of the mediators to determine what follow-up steps they need to take. But we are encouraging them to work as much as they can to find practical solutions to implement the ceasefire conditions fully. Deji?
Right. So yesterday, President Trump posted something on social media, said, because of other countries' testing programs, I have instructed the Department of War to start testing our nuclear weapons in an equal basis. Does the Secretary General have anything to say on this proliferation issue? Now it seems it's getting more and more, how to say that, out of control?
Well, the Secretary General has been saying for some time now that current nuclear risks are already alarmingly high, and all actions that could lead to miscalculation or escalation with catastrophic consequences must be avoided. We shouldn't forget the disastrous legacy of over 2,000 nuclear weapons tests that have been carried out over the last 80 years. In other words, over the course of the entire lifespan of the United Nations itself.
You can see that in the UN tour.
And so from our standpoint, from the Secretary General's standpoint, nuclear testing can never be permitted under any circumstances. Yes, Linda.
Farhan, I don't know if you may know the answer to this, but can you clarify regarding the hostages? Islamic Jihad had hostages, I believe. Are they, when we talk about Hamas releasing all the hostages, those include them?
Yes, we want all hostages, including all the remains of deceased hostages, to be released by all parties.
But Islamic Jihad has released everyone they had, as far as we know.
I don't have a numerical breakdown of which thing,
Right.
which party holds which deceased body, but all of them need to give them up. Michelle Nichols. Michelle?
Hi, Farhan. Sorry, I was having an issue. Just on China paying its dues, has it paid peacekeeping as well?
I believe it's paid a substantial chunk of peacekeeping dues, but what I was saying today in terms of today's payment was this is its full payment for regular budget dues.
Okay, and then can I just trouble you to read your response again on the nuclear question, because there was an interruption in the middle of it, which makes it no good for telly. So if you do it again, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just one more time and then we'll get to our guest. So the Secretary General has repeatedly asserted that current nuclear risks are already alarmingly high, And all actions that could lead to miscalculation or escalation with catastrophic consequences must be avoided. And as he has said, we must never forget the disastrous legacy of over 2,000 nuclear weapons tests carried out over the last 80 years, and that nuclear testing can never be permitted under any circumstances. And with that, let me turn now to our guests. We're very fortunate to have with us Francisco Pichon, the resident coordinator for Cuba, and Gregoire Gutstein, the humanitarian coordinator ad interim for Haiti, who will join us virtually. I see you both. So first, Mr. Pichon, the floor is yours to talk about the situation in Cuba. Hold on. Can we get his audio, please?
Now,
all right, try
can
again.
you hear me?
Yeah. You're good. Thanks.
Very good. Thank you. Good morning to you all from Havana. I will very briefly provide some highlights of the emergency situation in Cuba, what the national response has been so far, and the support that the UN is providing on the ground. Melissa is now classified as one of the 3 most powerful hurricanes ever recorded in Cuba, the strongest worldwide in 2025 so far. And it made landfall directly in the province of Santiago de Cuba. And for 6 hours, it battered eastern Cuba with very heavy torrential rains and sustained winds in addition to 200 kilometers per hour. And we have registered heavy rainfall across the 5 eastern provinces in Cuba, with a lot of destruction in urban and rural municipalities. Now, with respect to the preliminary assessments of the impacts of the storm, more than 3 million people were exposed to these life-threatening conditions. About 32 municipalities in 4 provinces of the eastern part of Cuba, and this includes the 2nd and the 4th largest city in the country, Santiago de Cuba and Holguin. But this information is still preliminary. So far, no fatalities have been reported. But, however, the authorities have indicated that near 240 communities are cut off due to the flooding and the landslides. So it's really still very preliminary. In terms of damages, a lot of housing destruction broadly. Critical infrastructure also affected, including health facilities, schools, power lines. Telecommunications has been a challenge so far. Also, food production has been compromised after such extensive damage on crops and farmland. Now, in terms of the national response, despite Cuba's conditions, Cuba has demonstrated the strength of its civil defense system, which is grounded on many decades of disaster preparedness. More than 735,000 people were safely evacuated to protection centers, and many of these protection centers were schools that were repurposed temporarily for such protection centers after the classes were suspended. Still, I should say that the needs far exceed the response capacity of the country. And I think, colleagues, the eastern territories hit by Melissa are also the same areas devastated a year ago by Hurricane Oscar and 2 earthquakes. for which the UN is implementing an underfunded recovery plan. We visited those areas, and the conditions for those municipalities that were affected a year ago by Oscar are really quite severe. So the current emergency is also, I should say, compounded by droughts in the area and also by a serious epidemiological situation with the rise in arboviral diseases and also a very delicate energy situation with frequent blackouts. And I like to also say that due to the blockade and the sanctions, the country is excluded from international financial institutions and also from many global markets. And this makes it very difficult for the country to finance disaster response. And I think broad support from international cooperation partners is really needed. And now, finally, in terms of the response of the UN system, we, for the first time this year, implemented a new anticipatory action framework supported by OCHA, the Office of Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. And this anticipatory action mechanism allow us to intervene prior to the event, to the hurricane impacting the country. And this is quite important for us because it helps us adapt to some of the restrictions to bring humanitarian goods to the country. So it strengthens our strategy for pre-positioning of goods in the country. And prior to Melissa hitting Cuba, about 5 UN agencies deploy pre-position assistance near the affected areas. And I think this is a very important intervention which help us make very smooth transitions towards the after-event support. We appreciate the support that the CERF, the Central Emergency Response Fund, has provided to support this mechanism of anticipatory action. The country, I think, ability to respond and to prepare and improve the pre-positioning is quite key, as I said, for a country under sanctions such as Cuba to support his humanitarian response. We have, at the moment, 2 colleagues from OCHA together with us supporting our UN country team in these efforts. Broad support is required, and for that, the UN and the national authorities, the civil defense, the local governments are right now busy preparing an action plan to assist around 2 million people who are considered to be in greatest needs across 6 different humanitarian sectors, which are food security, health, education, shelter and housing, water and sanitation, and logistics. And we are working to launch this plan in the coming days. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And now we'll hear from Gregoire Goodstein, the Humanitarian Coordinator at Interim for Haiti. Wait. Hold on. I think it takes a second for the audio to kick in. Please connect Mr. Goodstein. Thank you. Try now? Nope. Hold on. Go ahead.
Great. So thank you for inviting me for this briefing. So as you know, Haiti was also hit by Storm Melissa. Over the last several days, it swept across Haiti's southern departments, and it moved gradually north at a very slow speed, which brought torrential rains, flash floods, and of course landslides. Unfortunately, a number of lives were lost, homes were damaged, or at least as well as destroyed. Roads have been cut off, and many families have been displaced. The death toll for now stands at 24 people who have died. Some of you might have seen the video yesterday. There's at least 10 that were killed because of the overflowing river in Petit Goave. We have about 17 people injured and still 18 missing. Close to 15,000 people were sheltered in 120 plus temporary shelters, mainly in the Sud, Nîmes, and Grand Anse departments. And of course, there's been significant agricultural losses in many departments, including banana plantations, fruit trees that were destroyed, food crops that have been destroyed, saturated soils, and of course, access is a big issue. I wanted to highlight the fact that as Cuba, we here in Haiti also benefited from a fund that was set up last year, which is called the SURF Anticipatory Action Fund. And this allowed for the unlocking of close to $4 million to ensure rapid preparedness. And I want to note that I was here during Hurricane Matthew back in 2016. And I could see that the real difference that having funding in advance, which allowed for preparedness and planning, made a real difference. So by October 22nd, the UN agencies were able to deploy a lot of resources. Communities were mobilized, emergency stocks were transported and put into place. We had a few hundred evacuation shelters that were also opened, cleaned up, made ready to functions. You have to keep in mind a lot of the families, when they left their homes, they prioritized women and children to be put in those evacuation shelters. Food, water, hygiene kits, medication, shelter materials were all pre-positioned in high-risk areas. And of course, we had rapid response teams that were deployed in sync with national counterparts. I think a big plus in the preparedness was also the fact that we were able to send out early warning messages to many parts of Haiti. I think I heard that there were close to 3.5 million messages that were sent out informing families of the danger and giving them clear indications on what to do, including going to evacuation centers. So I think that really played a big role in terms of saving lives. I want to also highlight the very proactive engagement and coordination that we had with national authorities, especially the Directorate of Civil Protection, la DGPC as we call it here, which really ensured that many lives were saved and that there was a lot of operational coordination throughout the response. Which, of course, the response is continuing. We haven't made a full assessment, humanitarian assessments, because of access difficulties is still ongoing, and we're going to take a few more days to better understand the full impact of this hurricane, including the human toll, casualties, injuries, missing people, and of course, infrastructure, houses, etc. And we hope to be able to inform you on the next phases of our response and recoveries. We have to keep in mind that this all comes on top of an immense humanitarian crisis that Haiti has been facing for a number of years, right? We have 1.4 million people that are displaced because of gang violence, including with very severe and widespread gender-based violence, children at risk of recruitment by gangs, immense psychological distress amongst the displaced population. So all of this is coming on top of the very critical situation that we're facing now. There's also 5.7 million people, which is about half of the population, that is going hungry every day. We also have flashpoints of cholera, including here in Port-au-Prince, in the capital. So we're also having a public health emergency on top of all the existing vulnerabilities. And then finally, I'll add that our humanitarian response plan is grossly underfunded. It's 87% underfunded, and this is really putting at risk our ability to continue with life-saving operations, whether it's linked to the hurricane or to the existing crisis linked to gang violence. So I'll stop here.
Okay, thanks very much. I'll now open the floor for questions. Yes, Evelyn?
I'm sorry. Excuse me. Yes, Evelyn Leopold. Was there a looting of your supplies in Haiti because of the gang violence that's going on there?
No, we haven't had any reports of any looting of supplies, nor of any supplies being redirected or taken over by gangs.
That's good. Any further questions? Yes, Linda.
Excuse me. So, just to clarify, what is the most important thing you need right now, in terms of dealing with the hurricane?
Is this for Haiti?
Yeah, is that for Haiti or for Cuba? For Haiti.
I mean, for both,
Oh,
but for
okay.
Haiti to begin with.
Gregor, maybe you first, and then Francisco.
But like I mentioned, because of still significant access issues, there are roads that have been destroyed, towns that are inaccessible right now. Thankfully, we do have UNHAS, but also because of the weather, we've had to interrupt a lot of the flights. But it's clearing up now, even as I speak. I think it's a weather that allows for flights to happen. We need to do the assessments to really understand the extent of the damage and the human toll. But essentially, what we're looking at is securing the funding that we need to actually implement the response plan that we have throughout the country, not just linked to the hurricane response, but also linked to displacement and the gang violence. So what we need right now is the funding. We have the teams on the ground. We have the coordination structures with the government, but we don't have the resources.
Francisco?
Yes, thank you for the question. As I indicated, broad support, I think, is needed from international partners. At the moment, we are preparing a UN action plan, which is a key instrument for us to mobilize resources. And given previous hurricanes in this part of the country, normally the needs are focused on food assistance, health, repair of health facilities and recovery of health facilities, schools, infrastructure is also affected, shelter and housing. There is generalized damage, particularly housings with lightweight roofing materials. There will be needs in water and sanitation, and also on logistics, also given the impact on the infrastructure. So we also are conducting the assessments. We will have different visits to the areas affected in the next few days, and we hope to complete this action plan and launch it with our cooperating partners in Cuba in the next few days. Hopefully next week, early next week. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? If not, I would like once more to thank our guests, Francisco Pichon, the resident coordinator for Cuba, and Gregoire Goodstein, the humanitarian coordinator at Interim for Haiti. Thanks very much, and best of luck in the days ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. And good afternoon, everyone. And the next briefing in this room will be at 1 p.m. with the Independent International Fact-Finding Mission for Sudan.